So, welcome everyone. My name's Linda Peters, and I'm the host of AGX Talks. And today we have another exciting guest for you. We're here today with Tom Fitzwater of the U.S. Census Bureau. Tom, it's really good to have you with us. We appreciate you being here today.
Well, thank you, Linda, for the invitation. I'm really excited to talk with you.
Yeah. So for our audience, we want to talk about a few things and get to know you a little bit. I might ask to start off for you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so I am chief of the Demographic and Economic Studies branch in the International Program Center of the U.S. Census Bureau. And my group primarily is responsible for a small feat of estimating and projecting the world's population. The International Program Center more generally produces international data products like the one I just mentioned, which is called the International Database. It's available on census.gov. And we also provide international assistance to national statistical offices, primarily in low and middle income countries. So I've been to a variety of countries: Jordan, Nepal, Namibia, Zambia, Nigeria, Malawi. I think I'm maybe forgetting a few, working with their geographers or their statisticians in building statistical capacity. And for that, we also build a variety of tools and other products, for instance, for producing population projections or in collecting and processing census and survey data.
Wow, so there's a lot going on there for the students. I hope they follow that, because you talked about data, you talked about tools and methods and processes, and as a geographer, also getting to go to some really interesting places to work firsthand in the field. That's pretty exciting. And I want to maybe ask a follow-on, because you're talking about the international division of U.S. Census, but Census uses geography in a lot of different ways, right?
Absolutely. Geography is integral to everything that is federal statistics. The Census Bureau is part of the federal statistical system, for which there are about a dozen principal statistical agencies and many more agencies of the federal government that produce statistics that could be considered part of the federal statistical system. And geography is everywhere. It's in the data collection side. So the previous presenter or previous guest you had on this series, Josiah Burkett, was just discussing how important it is to understand data collection as a geographer. From a statistics perspective, a federal statistics perspective, it is also extremely important to have that background and understand where the data come from. And when it comes to producing a census or implementing a census or a survey, we need to understand where people are so that we can send them questionnaires or go interview them and ask them about their lives and collect that information for the variety of programs that we support.
Yeah.
So,
no, I was going to say that really goes into the next question I was going to ask you, which is to talk about how geography really plays a role in your work and what you do day to day.
Yeah, and it's not just in the data collection aspect, it's in I'll call it downstream. Once we have the data and we're analyzing it, we need to make sure that we can examine problems with a geographic lens and not just look at data in tables or in other nice visuals, but also to see how patterns or phenomena are dispersed geographically and whether or not there are any particular observations we can pull from that.
Interesting. And you mentioned as well this population forecast estimation that you're doing. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because people normally would think about population forecasting and think, oh, that's a statistical thing, right?
Yeah, and there are a lot of statistics in our the methodological tools that we use. The demographic analysis and population projection system was one of them. The process really starts with the census. If you think about what goes into estimating or projecting the world's population, there's a lot behind the scenes that really feeds into the final number you see of 7 to 8 billion people living on the earth today.
Mm.
And it involves compiling all of the census data that we can find, as along with vital statistics on births, deaths, and net migrants, to try to estimate population to the present, and then based on current trends in fertility, which is the number of children that are being born, mortality, the number of people that are passing away, and international migration, how people move from country to country, to understand where the future may be going in terms of those population trends. And it's very important to understand, especially from a migration perspective, those geographic interlinkages, what's pushing and pulling people from country to country, and also even looking at the other components of fertility and mortality, how those patterns vary in different parts of the world.
And understanding where they're going, and then the why. Why are they going there? It sounds like you're looking at both sides of that.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about what you studied. How did you get here? Tell us a little bit about what you did and where you went to school.
Well, I attended the University of Maryland, College Park, for both my bachelor's degree and my master's degree in geography. I initially entered the University of Maryland thinking I may be a business or finance major, so I already was approaching it with a quantitative interest in numbers and whatnot. Then I moved into an anthropology major, actually, which introduced a social science framework to how I'm understanding the world. And from anthropology, my advisor suggested, hey, you should take a GIS course, since it's useful to understand problems spatially. So I took a GIS course and then promptly switched majors. I kept anthropology as a double major, but switched to geography and GIS as my primary major. And from there, moved into the master's program in the Department of Geographical Sciences in Maryland, which is a very large remote sensing shop, and focused on forest cover change. So I was doing a good deal of physical geography at that point. So having both that human geography training and the physical geography training was really, really beneficial, because that helped me have an interdisciplinary approach to problems at that time and to today.
Nice. And it sounds like some technical skills developed in there too. You mentioned GIS, you mentioned remote sensing.
Yes, and also statistics and programming, which when we're looking to hire individuals at the Census Bureau, I know that as a federal statistical agency, statistics is what most people may think of, but in other buzzwords such as data science and AI, within all of that is statistics and the ability to understand problems quantitatively, and of course spatial statistics as well.
Yeah. Please, sorry.
Oh, and I was just going to say, and also being able to automate workflows and program in languages such as Python or R is also was also very beneficial for me in my time, and is something that's very useful at the Census Bureau.
Well, that's really interesting, and it sort of leads into the next thing I was thinking about is, students today and academics want to know, like, what should I be learning? What should I be teaching? What are the trends? What if I wanted to come work for your division right now, what skills would you be looking for?
Well, it is programming and statistics, and approaching problems, being able to approach problems with a quantitative and objective perspective, and any opportunities that students or academics have to become more quantitative or learn a few more programming languages, especially R, Python, are very popular with statistics these days. Makes an individual much more impactful, and can save, especially when it comes to scripting and automation, can save time, which is our most valuable and limited resource.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not just about GIS skills, right? You've got to be really well-rounded. Are there any other areas, I mean, I talk about often, I had to learn how to do project management. It was one of the things I didn't learn at university. Are there other things like that that you might think about to recommend to our students watching today?
Well, the project management is definitely something that I had to learn as well after my formal education, and but it's absolutely critical to understand the basics of a project budget and a schedule and defining the scope. There have been many projects that we've all participated in at some point where we got to a certain point in the schedule and realized we're doing it wrong, but because we didn't define the scope of the project well at the beginning or lay out specifications. And as you after graduation, when you move from doing projects mostly by yourself or with a few classmates to large teams of individuals with very different perspectives, very different expectations and educational backgrounds, it's very important then to clearly define the scope and to practice good project management and pick up some of those skills.
Yeah, yeah, and I heard you say in there too, teamwork, and I'm guessing, you know, that also means communication is important as well.
Yeah, and for censuses and surveys, especially communication among the project team is very important, but then communication and outreach to encourage people to respond is also extremely important.
Yeah, of course, of course. Well, any last words that you want to leave to our listeners?
Well, just that the Census Bureau is a great place to work, and it's a large federal agency with many opportunities. And if you are excited about data and not just geospatial data, but any data really, and also if you want the opportunity to learn more about the complexities of censuses and surveys, the Census Bureau is really an exciting place to work.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like it is. Well, with that, I want to thank you. I'm going to wrap up this session of AGX Talks. I want to say thank you to our listeners as well, and ask others to be sure to join us again. We're going to take a little bit of a break in the summertime here, so maybe a couple of weeks hiatus, but we'll be back in the fall with our next exciting speakers. But again, thank you, Tom. Appreciate you being here today.
Well, thank you, Linda.
All right, with that, until next time. Take care, everyone.